welcome back to Boca Raton, Florida. We are not going to be doing that anytime soon, but it does look like a lot of fun. The wave pool here at the Boca Raton Resort and Club, the NFL meeting officially in the books after 4 days. That kid not ready to go anywhere. Troy Vincent and Dean Blandino probably anxious to get home after they've been here for 4 or 5 days. The executive vice president of football operations and the senior vice president of officiating for the NFL. 9 rule proposals were accepted by the competition committee. Troy, which one to you is the most significant and stands out the most?
I felt like, going into it, our objective was how do we make the game safer and better? And I think the horse collar and the chop block. The chop block has significant ramifications, both short and long term. It's where we should be as a sport, eliminating such an illegal technique. And then the expansion of the nameplate on the horse collar, which is another real concern, a safety issue of the players, is something that, speaking to the players about, great concern of theirs, great concern of our office, as well as the coaches.
It's interesting, the chop block rule, because the defensive guys love this rule change. The offensive guys, one of our own, Sean O'Hara, said that was a tactic that, if employed properly, was obviously very effective for offensive linemen. But the college game took it out, Dean, 2008?
Yeah, the college game took it out in 2008. It's been illegal in the high school game for a very long time, and we just felt it was the next logical progression. If we're really concerned about player safety, then this was the next step that we had to take.
The touchback rule is going to go into effect for a year, essentially a trial period. The ball and the touchback now going to go to the 25 as opposed to the 20. Talking to some coaches, I'm wondering if it might have the opposite effect. It's a player safety rule in essence, but could they try to have shorter kickoffs now to force the team to return? Has that been a thought at all, Troy?
It was debated and discussed at length, and I think that's why it was a one year playing proposal, was to see, are the implications what we hope they would be with less returns?
Sure.
Are the others, will teams try and see what those outcomes are? So I think that's why the 1 year proposal makes the most sense, so that we can adjust moving forward.
The automatic ejection ruling, I think we have our arms around it now, but over the last couple of days, I don't think everybody really understood exactly what it was. Help us understand that, Dean.
Yeah, we had a lot of discussion about this, and I think there were some people that weren't sure, well, what fouls would fall into this category and which ones wouldn't. And the committee was very clear they wanted to keep this to unsportsmanlike conduct, things, verbal taunting or physical taunting, putting the ball in somebody's face, throwing a punch even though there's no contact is made. This is not trying to make a football play and getting caught in the rule. This is something that a player really has a choice, and it's behavior that we don't want in the game, and sportsmanship is really at the key of this rule change.
The interesting thing here, though, is that if somebody is taunting a player and gets penalized twice for that, he's ejected from the game. But if he ear holes a guy twice, he could actually technically still be in the game. Is that something we could see altered down the road?
We discussed it, and the key to all of this is that the reaffirmation that the officials have the ability to disqualify on the first flagrant violation when it comes to a personal foul, a hit on a receiver. You don't see it very often, but the officials do have that ability, and the committee reaffirmed that, and will continue to direct our game officials when flagrant, they have the ability to eject.
Area of emphasis for the upcoming season then,
Yes.
for them, perhaps?
Yes.
What else among the rule changes, Troy, was interesting to you or think will impact the game the most? Because the automatic ejection has gotten a lot of pub, for lack of a better word, but it probably won't have the biggest effect on the game among the 9 rule changes that are going to take effect.
I'm going to say the chop block, because it's, back to Sean's point, it was something that was to an advantage of an offensive lineman. Now it's man on man. It's one player opposing his will on the other. I think, and also we'll see more consistency in that call from our referee. I think that particular rule change will have the most significance, because you'll see the D linemen, which they should, potentially making more plays but less injuries.
What was the most spirited conversation regarding which rule change in that committee room. Bring us inside for a minute, Troy.
Well, I would, if I can move away from, because I don't know if it was the rule change that had the most spirited discussions. Yesterday we had a spirited discussion around the joint practices.
Oh, really?
It was very good dialogue around the joint practices and some parameters and best practices, the sportsmanship around, how do we conduct those? Should it be 2 days? Should it be 3 days? This is where the Players Association gave us their views on what they believe. It was a lengthy discussion yesterday amongst our owners, general managers, and head coaches, I thought was, and then that dead period. The commissioner referenced this in his press conference. Time of the year for those season ends to when off season begins, that dead period, and having the players and maybe the coach or whomever it may be have the ability to get together, lengthy discussion around getting a team together before the start of off-season training begins.
To be in contact before
Yes.
OTAs. The joint practice is something that I think fans enjoy. Players like, you hate practicing against yourself all the time. So when you can practice against other teams, certainly it's more spirited. What was the tone? People like the practices, and do they want shorter? Do they want longer? What was discussed? Why you're looking at me like that, like you don't want to answer the question?
No, they. I think across the board, everybody liked the joint practices.
Right.
They like going up against somebody else other than somebody on your own team. I think some people felt 2 days was enough. Others felt, hey, we could have went 3 or 4 days. I think some of the things that we saw during the joint practices is maybe guys took it a little too far, and that was a concern. And I think the coaches really did a great job of talking about, hey, when we're going to have a joint practice, we get together, we get a couple of our leaders from each team, and we talk about, here are the expectations. We're going to go out and work, and anybody that's going to step over the line, you're going to be in the locker room. So it was a real good debate and discussion about those joint practices.
Maybe you just have a joint movie night with the two teams.
Well, it's a good teaching. It's a great way to teach.
Yeah.
And as a player, it breaks up the monotony of every day going against a guy that you know. But what we've seen, sometimes it's that third or fourth day where players may take it to the next level. They're tired. We have to continue looking at injuries that are involved with the joint practices. But it was a very spirited and a very healthy discussion.
Interesting. We've seen the good, bad, and the ugly from the joint practices over the last few years. Certainly taking some positive steps in that direction. Touchback rule in effect for 1 year. Automatic ejection rule in effect for 1 year. You guys are going to be taken off shortly. Anything else that stood out to you? A takeaway from the meeting in general, Dean?
I thought we felt that the game got better over the course of the last couple of days. There was good discussion. The democratic process where it's not the competition committee just telling people this is what we need to do. The coaches have a forum, front office has a forum, the owners have a forum, and I think it really made the game better these last couple of days.
Yeah, I would echo what Dean said. I have a great appreciation for the democratic process. And when you see coaches, you see owners, you see general managers, executives express their concerns, what we're doing well, what we're not doing well. There's still a lot of questions that are answered. What's the next evolution of football? Tackling is something that, what's the progression of tackling? We still have to continue monitoring injuries and head injuries, lower extremity injuries. So there's good, healthy discussion, and we're not stopping where we are, but there's a lot of work still yet to be done.
Before we let you go, this is something we discussed earlier, and I think it's really interesting. Are we headed towards taking the kickoff out of the NFL? It seems like the touchback at the 25 is a step in that direction. Troy?
Well, you hear the coaches, and as a former player, the kicking, that kicking aspect, there's 3 phases: offense, defense, and special teams. That's an exciting, it's an explosive play. Frankly, it's how I earned my scholarship to the University of Wisconsin, was returning punts and kicks in high school. But we do have to monitor, because that's where you see some of our bigger collisions. What can we do to still make that an exciting play, but limit some of the explosive, plays and contacts that we see?
Dean, what do you think?
Well, I think it just gives teams another option. You can still take it out of the end zone. It's just if you decide not to, it's going to be at the 25. We put it in for 1 year so we can look at if there are any unintended consequences. and we won't get stuck with a rule that by week 6 or 7 maybe we weren't sure that was going to happen. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, but we feel good about it.
All right, the trial balloon is in the air. Thank you, gentlemen, to Natalie, attired vice presidents of the National Football League, ready to head back to New York. We're going to be back here in Boca in just a couple of minutes going over everything that went down today at the NFL meeting. Several rules proposals passed, 9 of them overall, including the expansion of the horse collar rule. You can see that right here. We'll be right back.